They may also see it as a chance to once and for all cut him off, as Twitter and other entities are doing, and say, oh, well, if that's my choice, just not ever have him run again. Some Republicans in the Senate might cotton to that in a different way.
Yeah, our founders were so wise. What they said, and this is George Mason and others in Philadelphia, is we need an impeachment mechanism that does two things. One, takes someone out, removes them from office. But number two, sometimes we're going to want to disqualify them, a lifetime ban on future office holding. So it's both of those that are at play here. And even if you don't have the time to remove the president by next week, you have the ability to bar him and disqualify him from future office holding, which is, I think, more a statement about the rule of law than anything else. Donald Trump's never going to win an election for dog catcher again. But the point is, we need to set the rules and what our red lines are. And, it's outrageous to me that Republicans like Jim Jordan are saying, oh, an impeachment process would be too divisive and destroy unity and stuff like that. I mean, listening to Jim Jordan talk about divisiveness is like asking David Duke to run your implicit bias training. I mean, where was this guy for the last 2 months? He was out there saying, there's election fraud and ginning all of this stuff up and helping create the conditions we're in now. These people aren't patriots. These people are insurrectionists.
Well, and to your point, there's a question about insurrection and traitors. And these are questions that people have to be on record for. People died this past week. So Congress can certainly, they said, made a big point of coming back in that night to hold a vote on what was a soundly defeated sham final challenge to the rightful election. They acted like doing that was somehow standing up to the mob. Of course, there was a tension there because while I understand why they wanted to restore order, it was in conjunction with the mob and the so-called Stop the Steal that they were initially working to hear that challenge. So it would seem to many that going back to the Senate and actually having a vote on where do you stand on whether after all this Donald Trump should be allowed to seek office again or not? And as we all know, in modern society, him even seeking office, even pretending to run another campaign, has repercussions itself. I want to get you on the other piece of this, Neil, which is very important. Folks who are following the news or saw, as I mentioned, Ocasio-Cortez or Pelosi or others, we've heard more and more talk about the 14th Amendment. I'm curious what you think about this rather new potential interpretation where some are suggesting that maybe you could invoke that Civil War era ban on insurrectionists or supporters of rebellion from public office. And to keep it simple, let's focus on just as potentially applied to Donald Trump.
So, Ari, first you ask, do I support the idea that the president would be qualified to run for future office? And the answer is absolutely not. This guy is not capable of running for office. He shouldn't be. He should be barred. He has as much claim to running for federal office as Vladimir Putin at this point. With respect to the 14th Amendment, I think, Section 3 bars people from serving in federal office if they've, quote, engaged in insurrection or rebellion or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. And I do think that, looks like it's been met here. And it would require it's never really been kicked in against a president, but it would probably require a majority vote in the House and the Senate. It's not clearly in the text. What is in the text of the Constitution is once there is that disqualification imposed on you, you need a 2/3 vote in the House and Senate to remove it. But the amendment doesn't actually tell us in clear language what's supposed to happen.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.